All right. So thank you so much for coming.
And likewise, thank you for having me.
Of course. So, for the basics of Ubuntu, Ubuntu leadership concerns open community and collaboration and involves some of the following traits. These are just the basic breakdowns. Community-driven decision-making, so a group effort towards coming to a consensus and decision. Meritocracy, the idea that those who contribute will be rewarded. Governance bodies, which is your very basic, like, your managers, your board, like just the overseers in general. Transparency and openness, kind of self-explanatory, but basically how you communicate with people as a leader and as like a manager, and obviously trying to be honest and open with everyone, and a code of conduct, just how you like your most fundamental way of running things, which require things like respect to your fellow human being. So
Cool. Got you.
those are just the basic breakdowns. Let's start with, what is your position in the company that you work for? Like, what's your role?
So I work for the South African Jewish Report, and on my payslip it says I'm the editorial coordinator. But what basically that entails is that there's obviously in any newspaper, in any publication, there's a lot of moving parts. There's the writers writing articles. There's the designers making sure that the article is put into the publication. So it all comes through me.
So you are like an overseer of a lot of things in terms of
That's
the
correct.
newspaper.
Correct.
So keeping in mind the meaning of Ubuntu, can you think of any examples between this form of leadership and how you, as an overseer, run things, like how you communicate with your team?
Yeah, look, I think it goes without saying it's it's a little bit like if you work if you go to a restaurant, you can kind of taste that the food that you've eaten has been worked under duress and people have been stressed while they're making the food. And you kind of can sense in the writing as well, when a person has been given a hard task and a very short deadline I mean, they're given a hard article to come up with and to research and to write about, and they've been given a very short deadline to do it, and you put them under extreme stress to do it, and you haven't done it or given the brief over in such a good way, you can see it in the writing. It reflects, and I think it's a case of respectful leadership and looking after people and making sure that number one, you treat everybody with dignity and respect, that you brief them properly, you give them the proper timelines, give them the space to do the best work they can, because if you don't, you're going to see it in the results. You're going to see that that especially what we do, that the articles aren't going to be written properly, the research isn't going to be done thoroughly, and you're going to get you can see it in the writing. So I think it's very important to give people the respect. I think creating a solid environment for people to thrive is always important, especially what we do, because you can actually see the results straight away.
So what I'm hearing is, if you create an environment where people feel respected and that their work is appreciated, they work far better.
Absolutely.
And I completely understand. And I prefer the in-depth knowledge. So thank you.
Cool.
Can you recall any recent events that you can remember where you had to come to a decision with your team, with the people you work with?
Yeah, look, I mean, the type of work we do, especially when you're in media and writing articles and sending out news, you have to kind of always realize, is what we are writing relevant to our readership? Sometimes you produce content and work that's, number one, is it relevant? Number two, is it something of their benefit? Or is it just sensationalism? Or is it just going to cause unnecessary panic? And I remember that there was an article that we were dealing with quite recently, or information that came our way, and we had to come up with a team. Is like, if we write this article, number one, it's going to cause panic within our readership. Number two, is going to cause people to worry. Number three, it's going to make people act in a different way. Now, is it necessary to do that? Well, that's what we discussed. Are we at a point now where we need to do that? So we all, we discussed it and we weighed up the pros and cons, and we said no, because we don't need to do that right now. Right now, it's not the time to cause unnecessary panic, or even if it is necessary, it's just not necessary to cause that kind of panic based on what people are generally dealing with.
So you've had to make decisions with your team because the Jewish Report is a local newspaper. So you've had to make decisions that not only affect your newspaper, but the general community that
Correct.
you service.
Very, very much so.
The last question I have for you is, do you believe in the Ubuntu leadership model, and do you think it can benefit you?
Yeah, I actually do. I think, sometimes what in theory sounds like would work well and in practice doesn't work so well. I mean, it's interesting, there's, a lot of things that you spoke about in theory, they work very, very well. But in practice, in certain organizations, they don't work so well. But the beauty of that is that we work with a smaller team. So when it comes to a bit of a smaller team, you are able to control the culture a bit better. If everybody buys into that common goal of just, meeting deadlines, getting quality content out, and, just working hard and making sure that things are done in a timeless manner, things can be achieved. And yeah, so I think the Ubuntu model for me personally works better in a small environment, but I can see how it could get a little bit more tricky in a bigger environment.
Something I wanted to touch on with your team, you also promote obviously some form of openness and transparency to be like, hey, this is our deadline, this is our goal, and we all need to reach that.
Absolutely. And everybody so buys into that, understands that, and knows that there's no other option.
All right, that's perfect. Thank you.